I've been ward councillor now at Chatsworth for 4 years. I got into it through an interest in my community, wanted to help out in my community. I've got a background of working in the public service, starting in the police service. I've been married for quite a long time. I've got a lovely husband and family, lots of outside interests. I belong to 2 book groups, I go to the gym, I swim, walk, cycle, a very active social life.
And of course you represent a very special ward in Chatsworth. Chatsworth
is the pinnacle in the crown. I've got to say that because it's my ward, but it's part of the beautiful and wonderful Derbyshire Dales, and it's the sum of all its parts.
And Councillor Purdy, Masson ward for you, but also a little bit about your career.
I'm ex-police like Sue, did a lot of time across the road at Matlock Police Station, so worked up through the ranks. I became involved in politics through a neighbour, former Councillor Purdy, whom he invited me to be his agent, and the rest is history. So that was 2007, and then Sue and I won leadership unexpectedly at the last May election. So it's opportune for us to set our agenda out for the benefit, hopefully, of the Derbyshire Dales residents and indeed, more importantly, the staff in this building.
Before we get on to that, a little bit about Masson Ward, because Chatsworth a magnet for visitors, but also, of course, Masson very much so.
A tourist hotspot, and it's something that's quite unique in my personal frame, because I used to be the Masson Ward beat Bobby in the early 1970s. So much older, much later, I've gone back there as the district councillor, and I'm obviously very honoured to represent it.
A lot of things happened in May at those elections. It was a close vote this time around, a 1-seat majority for the Conservatives, and I suppose unexpected that you should ask to be leader.
Indeed, I think I might say that I expected to be planning chairman again, and I think Sue might say that she expected to be chair of C&E. But we lost our 2 leaders for 2 different reasons. One lost his seat, and Councillor Lewis Rose, who we've already paid dedication to in council, has been unwell and not able to stand as leader. He's still a district councillor for Carsington Ward, so we wish him a speedy recovery.
And a message for staff, Councillor Hobson. I think both of you want to get around, don't you?
Absolutely. I think it's very important that we start as a new leader, a new deputy, that we get to know everybody and not just sit in an ivory tower at the top with the officers. We want to get out and meet everybody, all our staff from the ground up. We value all our staff.
Okay, so we're into July already. You've set out some objectives. I mean, how far advanced are you with that?
Can I say first and foremost, Jim, that I think Sue and I come from different backgrounds. We come from a very disciplined background where we were told to get the job done. And this is where we're coming from. We're going to get a job done. And so I set out my stall immediately in my leader's announcement that I wanted the council to be involved in certain aspects for the benefit of the community. Top of that tree was climate change. We've adopted that. We've got an excellent councillor in our ranks who's got a bit of expertise in this field, so we've set up a working group. That's been set in policy on 25th of July. I then also looked at the fact that Derbyshire Dales, as wonderful an area as it is, and it's a beautiful area, as you know, it's got some of the lowest wage economy in the country and yet some of the highest priced properties, so there's a real dichotomy there. So I want our authority to, already the good work that's been done but be built upon, to build more business, create better opportunities for larger businesses to come into Derbyshire Dales. That's an area where I think we really need to tap into. Tourism, I've already said to our officers we need to pick the brains of the experts in this field. So we've got Chatsworth, we've got Heights of Abraham, we've got Tissington and so forth. So I intend to pull them into some kind of seminar to pick their brains. Housing, I'm very keen, having been chairman of planning for some time, that there's not a real affordable home that's being built at the moment. Affordable homes title is a misnomer. The people in the villages can't afford to stay in their villages, and so I want to work with Rob Coggins, head of housing, and develop what we call real affordable homes. Call them council houses, I don't mind what you call them, but make it that it's really affordable for people in Derbyshire Dales.
And of course we have an adopted local plan now, but I mean, would you accept that maybe creating housing and making people happy about that situation is probably one of your biggest challenges? I'll ask you that.
It's always difficult with building houses. People live in this environment, they're happy with their environment, but we need to build these houses. It's just the way things are that part of the Derbyshire Dales, a big part is in the Peak District National Park, which is a different planning authority. So we do have those challenges in the rest of the area. We've got our financial challenges as well. We've had major cutbacks over the last few years. We've got the government spending review coming up. We're hoping that there will be a little bit more leeway for district councils, but we don't know.
So over and above embracing what we have here at the District Council, of course, there are lots of partnerships out there, and we really need to make the most of those, don't we?
We do, you're right, Jim. I mean, Sue and I, in our first week, we held meetings with Councillor Barry Lewis, leader of Derbyshire County Council, and a set-in-train meeting all the heads of service here through Paul Wilson, Chief Executive. And then we want to drill down to all other heads of service and below that and down to the workforce itself. But there's a real constituent authority working group in the area. There's the Peak Park, there's Derbyshire County Council, there's Peak Borough. So we set our stall out to meet those principal players. In fact, I've got a meeting soon with two elements that's affecting us at the moment are what are called the LEPs, that is the Local Enterprise Partnerships. Now at the moment we have a foot in both camps, the Sheffield Local Enterprise Partnership and the Derby Nottingham what's called the D2N2 partnership, which is where we can secure monies from. So I've got meetings set up with the chair and chief execs of both those two LEPs, and then in the future with other constituent authority leaders around, so that we can look towards something else that's happening in the background. I'm sure people have heard of the Northern Powerhouse, there's the Manchester Powerhouse, well, we're working on an East Midlands Powerhouse because much of the government's monies do not go into the East Midlands areas. As Sue said, we're waiting for this government spending review, and we certainly need, you know, some help with this authority, as all other authorities need help. But there's that Midlands engine where we want to drive it and make it an economic powerhouse for the benefit of the whole of the East Midlands, and Derbyshire Dales can be sucked into that to draw monies from government.
Okay.
We've started making relationships and networking with other people, other leaders, other deputy leaders. We'd like to meet people in the business community as well. We want to work collaboratively with the other council members, not necessarily just Conservative council members.
No.
We want what's best for Derbyshire Dales.
I think you both attended the LGA conference. I mean, did you find there that a lot of districts are in a similar situation to us?
Very much so. A lot of the questions to the two ministers that attended, Mr Hancock and Mr Brokenshire, a lot of questions from the floor was, when are we going to get our government spending review? Unfortunately, there's a bit of a title race on at the moment for Prime Minister, and we were told we have to get that out of the way before any decisions can be made. Now that's not helpful to all authorities. I don't just speak for this authority. Every member at that conference was screaming out, we need help with monies. We've had cuts in authorities now since 2010, and I would argue if that was a business, it would have gone bankrupt a long time ago. So we take our hat off to the staff here, and particularly the finance. They've done a fantastic job over these years, keeping this council liquid.
It must be a tough thing to have to explain to residents, in particular when you start charging for local loos, for example. But it is all about money, isn't it?
I'm afraid so.
It is all about money. I think, though, most people are realistic, and if you speak to people, whether it's potentially charging for the green bins or closing toilets, people are realistic. They read the papers, they know what's going on, but they still want to make sure that we are giving them the best deal, and that's what we intend to do.
And we talk about challenges, and one that keeps bouncing back, of course, is where to put a site for the travelling community, and it's one that's bounced back an awful lot of times.
It has, because travellers by their DNA travel, and so occasionally they descend upon different parts of the Derbyshire Dales, and I've said in public, on YouTube, unfortunately, if they'd only live by normal societal standards, then I'm sure people would be more tolerant. But we have a duty of care to these people, and this authority does exercise that duty of care through Tim Braun and his staff, and so we desperately want to get this permanent site. So we've set up meetings with County Council, we've had consultancy firms on a search for sites. I'm well aware of the nitty-gritty on the detail, but I'm not prepared to go into it on this platform because it wouldn't be right to do so. But I can assure everybody that we're working closely towards a solution for this. And
we're working very hard towards this. I mean, this is one of the priorities of the new council, because I'm sure you'll agree this has gone on for far too long, and it's in nobody's interest to let this continue.
We've talked about, awaiting financial settlements, etc. I mean, do you think we're going into a period where austerity has ended? Are we likely to see more cuts? Is it a tricky question to answer?
Well, I hate to use the word, Jim, but Brexit worries me. We've been given to understand in the papers today that if it's a no-deal Brexit, it will cost us £39 billion. So, can one see an end to austerity yet? I don't think so.
So the great news is that Matlock's Hawleys Park has won the Green Flag Award issued by the Keep Britain Tidy group for a 12th consecutive year, but there's more we can do, isn't there, to sort of spread the word about the great work that goes on across the whole district?
Well, congratulations are due to all members of staff who've worked so hard to get that award for us yet again. We look after over 30 parks and gardens in our area, and I'd like to see all our parks and gardens up to that standard. This is something that our residents and our visitors can enjoy throughout our beautiful Derbyshire Dales. It's good for people's mental health, their physical health, to get out and about, and this is a real priority of ours.
We should say that you, of course, were Vice Chair of Community and Environment last time around, so that sort of the green space thing actually means a lot to you.
It absolutely does, and as Garry said earlier on, I think we both expected we'd be in slightly different roles this year, and I've got a real space in my heart for the community and environment, and I know the staff work here really hard on that, and long may it continue.